Hey guys, what's up? Hope everybody's doing good. Thought I'd pop on here real quick before I go call it a night. Um, yeah, I know it's kind of a weird time again to be doing a live stream, but yeah, I actually was gonna do one a little bit earlier, and well, after the one I did way earlier, but never made it on. I fell asleep, and I'm actually getting ready to go back to sleep here in just a few minutes. Kind of tired tonight, this morning, wherever you're at in the world. Thanks for everybody for being here. Hey George, what's up? Glad you can make it, man. Pamela, Dennis, Julie. I am going to go ahead and get into the information, and we can, we can talk after that. So, well, guys, we were talking about this geomagnetic storm, and it did arrive. We are there. We went quickly from a G. Well, we were actually at a KP of 3, which is not storm level, but we quickly escalated to a G1 and then to a G2. So we did get to the G2, which is actually one of the stronger geomagnetic storms that we've had, in quite some time. This thing did hit us just like they said it was going to. Their forecasting was off just by just a few hours. It wasn't off much, which is that's they should be able to get a feather in their hat for that one, because this is only 6 p.m. huh? Fi, good to see you, by the way. Trinity, good to see you, girl. I ain't seen you in a minute. Oh, your dad's in the hospice. I'm sorry to hear that. Yes, prayers definitely for you, girl. Yeah, guys, give her some prayers if you could. Trinity's been around since the beginning of my channel. Good girl. Obviously, she's going through some stuff there, so please, throw her some prayers if you would. Hospice is a hard thing. It really is. Most of us know what that is, and I'm sure you're not here to talk about that, so I don't want to do that to you, so we're not going to do that, Trinity. So I'm sure you're going to get enough of that. But we will definitely pray for you. So anyway, back to the geomagnetic storm. We got there. There was some question because it was going to be a little bit late. Sometimes when that happens, the wind speed itself is a little bit slower than what was thought at first. But we got there. So what does that mean? I know that's pretty much where everybody's mind goes when we say, hey, we got a G2 storm. Well, first thing I want to say, I don't think it's going to be G2 for very long. Matter of fact, I think this next updated 3-hour bar here is probably going to drop back down to a G1, if not even out of storm level. It probably won't drop down out of storm level, but this G1 stuff may hang around for quite some time today. Their forecasting is saying G1, G2, G1, and then down into, a little bit lower than regular, what we would consider an actual storm. They just consider that highly active, but, take that for what it's worth. But with all this stuff hanging around, I really think it's probably going to hang around for a minute, so who knows how long we'll stay in storm level. But I'm telling you what, I've already seen some aurora photographs from this. It's some crazy, awesome looking aurora. I mean, I'll show you guys that here in just a second. So let's go here to the Discover data first off, and you're going to see exactly when this thing hit. And, when I was on earlier and told you, hey, we're getting the beginnings of that, that's exactly what was happening. So you can see how we stayed at our angle of our magnetic field, stayed at a angle that was good for a storm to get in here pretty easy. But notice how it jumped back up into positive here, and things are getting jerked around a little bit, and that's normal, okay? And we got back down to -6 again. But notice how, the density shot up from like 6 to 24, like almost immediately. Whenever that happens, that definitely does give us a hit. It is like immediate. And not only did that jump up at the same time, remember what I said, when you get density, Usually when it goes up, the wind speed will go down. But with CMEs, they both will elevate at the same time. And that's exactly what happened. So we went from, like 370 here, 390, up to 490, instantaneously. Pretty much. But notice how after it stuck around for a minute, how the density and the solar wind speed itself actually started doing what they typically do, and they started going the opposite direction of each other. The density started dropping and the wind speed started coming up. This is seriously the classic CME signature. If you guys have been around any length of time, you've probably seen me show this before, but this is exactly what we would expect to see. So this thing did hit us right on the face. I don't think there was much question. If you guys remember back when I first started talking about this one, I said I've never been more confident about something that they've actually forecasted like this to be correct. So, yeah. So that's what's happening there. The temperature rose too. So this is, and again, guys, when we start getting into further along in the solar cycle, this kind of stuff right here is probably going to start blowing your mind how crazy it gets. Because most of us that are here right now, we're not doing this YouTube thing or didn't even have a clue what space weather was during the last solar maximum. We're moving towards that. We're not even close to it. So we're going to see conditions that are going to look awful crazy to us. And, I guess my job in this is to be kind of a voice of reason to let you guys know that most of that is extremely normal. So there's absolutely nothing to fear. And I have to go back to that comment that somebody was asking me if they should, reschedule their MRI. Never, ever not do a medical appointment because of space weather. Okay? If it's bad enough to cause issues with that, you're not going to have to ask me if it's okay. I promise you. Okay? You're just not going to have power. It will be gone. That's just a fact. So if it's ever that serious, you're not going to have to wonder if you need to reschedule an MRI. Just saying. And I'm not being like talking down or talking that way to people. That's not how I mean for this to come across. I really mean it as being serious. That is something that if we get to that point, we're not going to have to wonder. Exactly, Tommy. Good to see you, brother. Hey, Skywalker. But yeah, it's yeah, there's no question. When the big stuff happens, guys, there's not going to be any question. People aren't going to be able to even. What I'm saying is, when it does happen, you're not going to have to run to YouTube to find out what's going on, because you're not going to have a YouTube to run to. That's really what I'm saying. So now, whether we ever see that happen in our lifetime, that's the bigger question. And I don't think anybody really can pinpoint a time or anything like that to where, now, we are in a place in our cyclical cycles that we go through naturally that we are expecting some bigger stuff to start happening. Whether it's this sun cycle or the next, if it makes it out 2 sun cycles, guys, I mean, that's 30 years, 22 years? It depends on what you're talking about sun cycle part. Sometimes people, and let me explain that real quick. A sun cycle typically is an 11-year cycle, and it's not exact anyway. It's a pole flip on the sun. Okay, we talk about a pole flip here. Our magnetic field, north and south, are getting closer to each other. And we've talked about that ad nauseum here on my channel. But the sun does it every 11 years, roughly. Okay? So, like if the positive was on the north pole of the sun, negative would be on the bottom. Now, like I said, in that cycle, roughly about 11 years, it'll flip. And that puts you right back into solar minimum almost immediately. That's what happens, right? And I can go into a lot deeper into that, which I have before, but I'll do it again eventually, just not tonight. But the question is, some people, they talk about the solar cycle being 11 years, and other people will tell you that it's 22. The reason why is because their definitions are just, it's really kind of a semantical thing. 11 years for us is what we call a sun cycle because of that pole flip I just told you. Their cycle, they're going from positive to negative and then negative back to positive. That's one cycle for the way that they think. Okay? And who's right or who's wrong? They're both right. I mean, neither one of them. Just depends on what you're talking about and how you want to word it. So that's what I'm saying. So you can go from start to start or from start to finish, from finish to start. That's kind of what that means. And I know that was a bunch of word salad that probably half of you didn't even catch what I was saying because I didn't explain that very well. But anyway, this is the geoelectric field model. Again, this is space weather's effect on our electrical grid. And notice, again, like I said, guys, we're taking a harder hit here in the Midwest than what the rest of the country is. And it has nothing to do with the location of where we're at facing the sun, because it's staying this way throughout the day and night. So our magnetic field must be, a little bit weaker right here at the moment. And that's why this stuff is showing up more. But as you can see, we don't often see these colors. Okay? So whenever you see these colors down, across the border here, that means we're getting aurora too. I mean, that's what that's going to mean. And again, I'll show it to you. Notice how, so you can see that. And this is for people that wouldn't understand what they're looking at. This might actually scare them, and that's why I try to let everybody know that this really is not, nothing really to be fearful of. And let me say this again: if it's time to be fearful, which is never, okay, always be aware. Maybe get concerned, maybe, but be prepared. And your preparedness needs to be where you feel comfortable. Not where I tell you, not where Joe Blow down the street tells you to be. You be prepared for where you're at and for what you think you need to do. Don't let nobody tell you any different. You just got to be comfortable in your own life and in your own decisions. Now, listen to people, take their advice and weigh your options. But at the end of the day, do what you think you need to do. Don't let me tell you any different, which I try not to force that onto people. But anyway, so you see that. I know I'm ranting here a little bit. It's just I have to do that a little bit during these kinds of events because undoubtedly tomorrow, mark my words, guys, you go watch some of these other channels that are going to report on this, that they're going to take it to an extreme level. Okay? And I'm talking extreme. This is emergency type of stuff. And, oh my gosh, guys, this is crazy or whatever you want to say. It's not. And let me tell you why I say it's not. I'm going to show you this again real quick. Let me find it. Okay. So this is the storm levels. Okay. I'm not necessarily showing you this to point out what can happen during these storm levels, but we're at a G2. And seriously, when you guys get on YouTube in the morning, or if you start watching anything in the morning, take note mentally with yourself who is saying what and how much they're playing it like this is such a horrible thing that's happening right now. Oh my gosh, guys, this is critical. We can't. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, you know what? Look at this over here. This tells you how many times per that 11-year sun cycle that this happens. So they're going to be, if they're doing that, they're going to be out here 600 times saying the same thing. You tell me what you think there. You know what I mean? You guys see what I'm saying? And the ones that are out here doing this 600 times, when it's time to talk about one that we only get 4 of, nobody's going to listen. Because you've come out here and just blown it way out of proportion 600 times. So, to those channels out there, and I know that a lot of you guys know who I'm talking about. And and it's not just one channel. Those channels that are listening to me right now, stop. Just stop. You're literally scaring people to the point where they're adjusting their personal lives and they're doing things based on what you're saying. It's disgusting. It really is. Especially after I know I've personally tried to talk to a couple people about this that report on this, and they refuse to even acknowledge I tried to help them. But I tell you what they're not going to do. They're not going to come over here and show you that this is a 600 per cycle. They're not going to do that. They're not going to show you this or this 1700. You know what that's called? It's called either intellectual dishonesty or just an outright lie. And they're trying to get clicks and views. So pay attention to who you're listening to. That's all I'm saying. I know it sounds really rough right now for me saying it like this, but the kid gloves are off when it comes to somebody talking about changing their MRI appointments because of a G2 level storm. Why would they even think that unless they had been talking to other people? Because I don't do that here. It makes me sick. It really does. Obviously, you probably hear the anger in my voice. I don't mean for you guys to hear me rant like this. It's just, it really does. It bothers me. We've got too many good people out there that are listening to a bunch of junk that it's just nothing, man. Critical updates? Come on, man. Really? Everything you say is a critical update? Whatever. Anyway, let's keep moving. Here is your magnetopause or magnetic field. And as you can see this is the kilometers per second. And it's definitely, yeah, we don't typically see it looking like this. So, just saying. Yeah, I'm sorry, you guys. I don't mean to rant. I really don't. I try not to. I don't do it very often, but at least not that way. So, yeah, and then you got your density. And this next one, again, remember what I said like 2 streams ago about the pressure? How, what I was showing you, the red around our planet probably really wasn't that big of a deal because it can be much, much worse. And it would be if we got a CME hit. Check this out. You see what I mean? And what I'm saying is, when you got just that red hanging around your planet right there, the pressure, and people start making a big deal about it. But now we're getting this. See all this? Guys, is your power still on? Are we having a discussion? Do you even know? Can you even know if this is actually happening without me showing this to you? What does that mean? Think about that for a second. What's that mean? That means that this is not an emergency. Especially that little bit of red that hangs around our planet a lot that certain channels want to play up. Okay, now I'm not saying that this isn't intense, because this is intense solar weather. Okay, it's a CME impact. But this is exactly what we need to look at. This is exactly what we're talking about. So, what are we going to get from this? Well, again, like I said before, that's why we go here and we look at this and we be real about it. So what's the most that's going to happen? The most thing that people are going to see is this. Aurora. Okay? So let me play this for you, and you're going to see how far it actually got down. It got down into the upper states here. Okay? And this is another reason why I think this is starting to tail off already too, so watch. See how I got red right there? See how it stretched down into the northern states? Just like spaceweather.com was even saying this is what was going to happen. And they were correct. So, but notice here right there how it started to tail off. That's because that CME impact has hit, and it's probably, on its way out. It's not a long duration thing here. Now we did have a coronal hole, and they're talking about maybe an increased wind speed because of that also right behind this. So if that happens with all the geomagnetism hanging around, we may go back up into storm level after we drop out of it. And that happens a lot, by the way. So yeah, and then here's the South Pole. Same type of situation here. Okay. Now I've been asked too, why doesn't this like go the same direction as this? Because you guys can kind of see how it's opposite. Well, that's because of the axial tilt of the planet. Okay, you got to picture the if the Earth, say that this wasn't here in our well, it's not really a good way to show this to you. Yeah, I really don't want to get that wrong and give you guys the wrong idea here. But just pretend nothing was here, but the United States was up here or whatever. North Pole's up here on my cursor, right? Geographic North Pole, well, it would actually be here. And the line, our axis would go just about like this. Because we're tilted at about 23.4 degrees. That's why we get seasons. But that's also why the auroras show up offset like this. Okay? And it's not about geographic north either, by the way. When you're talking about aurora, you have to go off of magnetic north and south. So we know those are moving. They don't stay in the same place. You know, they're migrating towards each other as we speak. Negative and positive on a magnet attract each other, right? So eventually our North Pole and our South Pole will meet. And when that happens, a pole flip happens. So what was once negative up here is now positive, and vice versa on the South Pole. And I'm not going to go into that conversation tonight because we talked about the equatorial bubble. You know, it's that around our equator, you got like the water's like 30 feet higher. And when we have our pole flip, that will release. At least that's what they say. And if that releases, that means every coastline in the world's going to flood. The water's got to go somewhere. Now, whenever it does happen, you know, there's been a lot of discussion around that. But that is what it is. Thanks, Ellen. Appreciate you. Ricky, good to see you. Trish, good to see you too, Trish. Mama, what's up? Just Jules. Oh, Lil Red. Okay, I was wondering, what the heck who is that? What's going on? With all that comes at us, how come we don't see the auroras here? Where are you talking about here, Jules? Where are you at in the world? You have to let me know where you're at as far as latitude. The closer to the equator you get, the less chance you have of seeing aurora. The closer to the poles. And the reason why is because if you guys look at a magnet, if you look at the field lines around it, especially like around our planet, they come in north and south, right? So when they, you know, you can start talking about a global circuit. I'm not going to go into all those right now. Again, you know, there's a lot to be talked about there. But because of the plasma is charged gas, it comes in easier on our poles where our magnetic field's the weakest. Okay? Our poles at, you know, magnetic north and south, that is the weakest part of our magnetic field typically. Now there's something called the South Atlantic anomaly also where, you know, most of us know where that's at. Actually, I can take you and show you where that's at real quick. It's over here. Okay? There's a magnetic, it's actually split into two now. They just did a study on it. And the magnetic field down here does not operate like we would think that it would. To the point where they have problems navigating down here. And it's, yeah. And that's what I mean about, you know, I explained the magnetic field kind of like an Afghan, like your grandma used to knit, right? You know, it's got holes in it. It's not perfectly flat all over. It's just imperfect is what I'm trying to say. And things get through. And this is why. So, yeah. So this South Atlantic anomaly, a lot of weird stuff happens down here because of that. And they do take a harder hit down here. They do. That's just, you can see it. Some of the data and some of the tools down there. I'll show it to you. But while we're here at the quakes, we did have another 5.4 over here in Vanuatu. 5's over here in are you New Zealand? I think you're in Australia, right? Not sure. You New Zealand or Australia? Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, we got a lot. I got a lot of people that listen over here in Australia. I love my Australians for sure. But anyway, so you got this going on. Australian too, Mark. Cool. Cool. Oh, by the way, let me Chuck and Deuces. Yeah, you guys can leave those comments there. That doesn't bother me, honestly. As long as there's no vulgarity there, they can just cram me all day long. I don't care. To be honest with you, I really don't. You know, like I've said multiple times, that's why there's a red X box at the top that you can hit. Just saying. Now here is the Australian model. Let's go there. How about that? So this is what this is, and I showed it to you guys in my last video there. So let's watch it. Watch it compress like I said it was going to. See that? It almost got into our satellite line. So, you know, sometimes it does. It'll go past our satellite line, and it does leave our satellites open to a bunch of charged particles, plasma. You start getting surface charging. They start having issues with navigation. It causes extra drag. They'll start to come out of their orbits, and they got to readjust them. So, yeah, that actually happens. And they pay attention to this big time. So, okay, so spaceweather.com. This is where it's at, guys. I mean, honestly, look at these aurora. Aren't those cool? Frank Lang got this one in Saskatchewan. Who else got them? Is there another one? James Cinco got this one. Pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. I mean, I would love to go outside and look up and see that. That would just be awesome. But no, I mean, they did. They got down pretty far, and they're showing you the CME impact. See how it jumped up real quick? You know, with the coronal hole string, typically you'll see like a slow increase. But with CME impacts, most of the time, the ones that are significant, it's almost immediate. And that also is why it hits you a little bit harder, causes more geomagnetism. It gets through because it's coming so quick. So yeah, it says abruptly the solar wind increased by 120 kilometers a second. Wow. Yeah, I mean when you're talking about 300 to 500 is normal. If you're making a jump almost immediate, 120 kilometers a second jump, that is a shock to the whole magnetic system for sure. So it's is what it is, you know. But they're also talking, you know, we did get into the G2. The density tripled. The temperature increased almost tenfold. So all that happened at once, and that it's exactly what we would expect to see with the CME. Okay, and let me preface this again by saying that this is not a gigantic CME. We just knew it was substantial, and we knew that, you know, most of us was thinking G2, high end, maybe G3 if it had gotten here just a little bit early, moving a little faster. But again, when things are moving faster, when they hit you, guess what? They also go away faster. So typically the ones that are going to give us a really, really hard hit, unless it's a density hit that hangs around, yeah. Hey Linda, what's up? Hey Recovery Channel. Good to see you. No. Not exactly. Is that Ever? I don't want to mispronounce that screen name. I'll just call you Ever. How about that? or is that even? Eve, maybe. Anyway, you know who I'm talking to there. Not exactly. Okay, it can be, but it would have to be really, really strong, and that's what we talk about. You know, when we're talking about, you know, I guess catastrophe type of stuff, where grid down and all that kind of thing happen. It would take it would take more than what this chart shows you. How about that? Because that's true. That's what it would. Let me go to the chart. It would have to be more than this. Okay. You could see, because this is a KP of 9, right? And they kind of stop the KP numbers. But what they do is you got a G5, and then, you know, when you're talking about flares, like when you get up to an X-class flare, that's the biggest one that they have, right? That's what they say. But they, you know, when I talk about flares, I'll go like a C1 to a C10. Then it moves into M1 to M10. But once it gets to X, they just keep increasing that number after the letter. Like the Carrington event, I believe they said was like an X49 or something like that. And that was back in 1859, where the telegraph lines got fried and all that kind of thing. You know, the operators that had it in their hand were getting shocked. It's kind of crazy. But yeah. So, but to answer the EMP question, yeah, I mean, it kind of is at the, you know, if you go down to the basic definitions here, but it would take a really big one to act like a humongous EMP, okay? And it would also depend on what side of the planet you're on when it hits. Some of that, you know, getting those big hits, yeah. So, anyway, let me, let's go back over here. Well, that's really pretty much all I got for you guys. I mean, I just wanted to come on and give you guys an update on what's going on with this. And again, we'll keep an eye on it, but I don't think, matter of fact, like I said, I think we're kind of tailing it off here a little bit, and it's probably going to start, you know, going away. If you look at the density and the wind speed, things are starting to stabilize and calm down. Now, again, I do think that we're going to be at a G1 here, this next one. We might drop out. I don't think so, though. But we could kind of pop in and out all day long. It just depends on what's going on and where. A lot of it depends on this BZ, okay? So, the angle. If it starts moving a whole bunch, is what it is. Oh, thanks, Don. Appreciate you. So, yeah. So, I don't know, guys. You know, you guys got any questions for me? I might be able to try to help answer some of those. I know I haven't been on, about a half hour here? Yeah. I just wanted to pop on and give you an update, because I guarantee you're going to hear a bunch of other people talking about this, and they should. I mean, this is definitely newsworthy. This isn't something that we would ignore at any level. And again, most people out there are going to do this in a responsible way. But there's going to be those few guys, and I just want you guys to understand that this is not catastrophic stuff. Okay? And again, if a CME happens on the sun, you know, if it's going to be like a grid down situation, we're going to have probably 24 hours to 36 hours before it gets here. So we're going to have time to look and talk about it at least a little bit. You know, from a CME anyway. Because it takes time, right? Sun's 93 million miles away. It's got to travel here. And one that would, you know, be powerful enough to, you know, cause grid stuff, it would have to move fast. And, you know, a typical CME is between 3 to 5 days before it gets here. Those are like, you know, middle of the road type of stuff. But you want to start talking about a G5 level type of thing, X flares and all those kinds of things that we talk about. Those things are here quick. Okay, they're outside of the norm. Yeah, we'll pray for you, Dell, for sure. Has there been any reports of satellite disruptions? I haven't seen any, but keep in mind, guys, that's a good question, by the way. That's a very legitimate question, too. And the reason why is because we got to understand that the higher up you are, altitude-wise, the less of a magnetic protection we have. So the satellites are up there, whatever distance they are, and they're exposed to more of the elements. They definitely will experience more surface charging and stuff like that. Now, astronauts really got to pay attention to this stuff, okay? And I understand there's only a handful of them up there at any given time, but it's still a human life, guys. So, got to talk about it, So, but if you go far enough out to where our magnetic field really isn't protecting much, like SOHO and Stereo A, those satellites out there giving us all the data that we can get, those things get pounded constantly. Constantly. Is there another one coming? Not that we've seen. Nothing of any kind of substantial anything, guys. Not that I've seen. Not seen any reports of anything like that. If you look at the X-rays here, we did have like a small C-class one here, I think. I think it was a B9. So again, that's not a very big flare, but that doesn't necessarily mean it fired a CME either. These are two different things. And that's kind of what, I'm trying to help people understand. That's a big thing to understand. And unfortunately, not a whole lot of people do. And that's what we're trying to fix that, and I try to do it in a positive way. I'm not going to talk down to nobody because I didn't understand this either. So, and I put myself right back I try to look at it as if I just walked into this for the first time. And when I do that, I'm able to come up with examples and stuff for you guys that help people understand. And unfortunately, you get people out there that just want to throw a bunch of word salad at you and not bring it down to a level to where you can understand the very basics. That's all I try to do. Very basic stuff. And there's no need to go into all the technical stuff, because if you want to know all of that in-depth stuff, which we do talk about sometimes, but there's people out there that do that, and they do a good job at that. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate you, man. But yeah, I mean, that's just, because people ask me, how come I try to bring it down like that? Well, that's why. Because if I go to a YouTube channel and it's not even about space weather, it's just about something I don't have very much knowledge about, and they start throwing a bunch of definitions at me, or a bunch of words that I don't know what the definition is, I'm not going to sit there and start typing into Google real quick trying to figure out what they're saying. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to hit the red X up in the top right-hand corner of my my window, and I'm going to the next one. I mean, and you lose people really quick when you start doing that word salad stuff. Hey, Tab, good to see you. Hope you're doing better. Hey, Exile, what's going on, J-Man? Good to see you. So, yeah. And, whoever said that earlier about me ranting, you're right. I was ranting. Okay. I got the information out, so that's really all I was trying to do. And, yeah, I mean, this is the middle of the night thing I just kind of threw together real quick. So, I'm trying to get a little bit more streamlined and focused at the beginnings of my streams, and I've been doing a fairly decent job at it. A lot of people have been saying, they want that part of it because not everybody has the time. So, but yeah. Any more questions, guys? How come the solar proton flux wasn't affected? Because it's just a different type of eruption. Sometimes, you get a lot of protons that fly off too, and that's radiation, by the way. That's why we look at that's what causes radiation storms. It just depends on what kind of eruption it is. A lot, and usually, like when we get from what I understand, I don't understand this completely myself. I understand it enough to say this, that usually when you get like a solar flare, if you're going to get a proton flux enhancement there, especially if it's going to get into storm level, it's behind the initial X-ray. Okay, but it's quick. It gets here quicker than what a CME would. So it's kind of in the middle, from what I've noticed. To be honest with you, I don't have the complete answer on that. That's a good question, and you know what? I'll probably start looking into more about that. I know enough to look at this graph, tell you what it's doing, and what we can expect, because I can show you what this is saying. But as far as exactly why this doesn't move when it does or when it doesn't, I can say this, though, that this thing doesn't move very often. I think all of us can see that. I mean, that's pretty, you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you just got here, didn't you, Jay, man? Here, I'll show you. Check it out. Thanks, Dale. Love back at you. Check those out. And while you're checking these out, guys, go over here to spaceweather.com and show them some love, too. I believe Dr. Phillips is the one that runs this channel. And I couldn't imagine the time. I just, yeah. They just do a really good job. And I am not going to sit here and take credit for somebody's work. They did the work, so please go give them some love. I'm just going to give you a quick glance. And that's why I do that. I would love nothing more to be able to get this stuff for myself, but honestly, they do a good enough job, and that and they're good at what they're doing. And yeah, I've been using this site for longer than most have been around space weather. I mean, honestly. But as you can see here, the fireballs, not much going on. And I am looking into that asteroid thing that everybody's talking about right now. From what I'm seeing, it's not anything that's going to be that significant from what I'm seeing. There is some stuff there that we can talk about, but nothing that is like, again, grid down or catastrophic stuff. So, not that I've seen. I'm not saying that it can't be. I'm just saying that I haven't seen it. That's all. And I say it a lot. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Because these things will happen. And I try to put it out there in a non-fearful way, but people need to be aware that it can. It can happen. And, in some levels it's normal. It's a normal cycle. Other times we can get catastrophes outside of the norm. Nobody really knows when the sun's going to do its thing. We get precursors. We understand it enough to be able to show you what I do. And there's people out there that understand it way better than I do. But, what we're looking at here, guys, I mean, if you want to start talking about nova and going micronovas and all those kinds of things, yeah, it can do it whenever it wants to do it. We cannot stop it. So, yeah, whether it happens in a normal cycle or not. So, that's what I would say to that, guys. But and again, go watch everybody's information. Just watch it with, watch it knowing the definitions and knowing what you're looking at. And you can believe however you want to believe after that, honestly. And I'll back you. I'll support somebody that just says, hey, this is what I believe. Even it might not even agree with me. I'll just be like, hey, that's, you went and looked and did everything. I mean, and that's where you fell. Okay? I'm not going to hate you or not like you because of it. Ain't going to happen that way here, guys. You guys know that. So go watch everybody. That's what I tell everybody that. And, you know, and they can come in here and bash me all they want in the chat. You guys know I let most of that slide unless it's derogatory or if they're attacking somebody else. They can't do that. But if they're attacking me, guys, I mean, you know, my mods, most of my, they very protective of me. And I do appreciate that. And that's why I say it sometimes. Let that stuff stay there. Because you know what it really does? It really shows the ignorance of people when they say things like that. And I'm not calling that person ignorant or anything like that. Because but when you put comments like that out there, it doesn't make you look intelligent whatsoever. You can attack me all you want, and I'm going to look at you and smile. And and when I hit the, oh, you're the one that did that, Tommy? No, it's fine. I'm not mad about it at all. I'm just, when I get off my channel, you think I'm going to think about that comment that was dropped there? I'm not, right? So, I mean, whoever it was, just showed everybody that's hateful, is what that is. I mean, honestly. I don't know what else to say there. Hey, Chewy, what's happening? Good to see you. Mercury is between us and the sun. Not unusual. Why hiding it? We're fourth, actually. Lots of laughs. Now we are, haha. Huh. I'm not sure if I follow you there. I don't really understand that question. Or statement, whatever it is. If you're talking about Mercury being in alignment between us and the sun, it was up until about a day and a half ago. Let's go over here to the CME tracker. I'll show you exactly where Mercury's at. Oh, yeah. But Mercury's right here. So, yeah. But, alright guys, I am getting kind of tired, so I think I am going to pop off. Yeah. Yeah, Mercury is in retrograde. You're right, Shar. Retrograde means it's actually, from our perspective, looks like it's going the wrong direction. Retrograde, baby. Thanks, Fly. Appreciate you. Alright, guys. I am going to pop off. I am getting a little bit tired, so, well, yeah. So, anyway. God bless. Yahusha saves. Tommy, good luck tomorrow at your new job. And you can drink this Kool-Aid.